Shalom. So today we're going to look at the relationship between anger and fear, right? What happens with fear? Okay, let's look at this example. You grew up in a normal community, went to a normal school, but then you moved on to college, university, have your career. Now you're getting this, you have this good, well-paid job. What do you do after that? Do you go back to the same place where you grew up? No, what a lot of people do is they move on to a gated community. They'll pay a lot of money for rent and so forth, right? Because there's a fear that is there. Because all their lives all their life they were living at a normal place and they did not have any fear. But what happens now is that they've developed an attachment, right? So all of that money that they are now getting, they have an attachment to that. So now they have a fear for the security of that money. So they need to be in a place where they can feel secured, right? So this is why we experience fear. How do we um, deal with that fear? How do we fix it or get rid of it? First, we have to see it for what it is. We have to understand our fears so we can be able to fix it, and that's where we shine the light on the fear itself, right? No, the fear is about the attachment that we have to the thing that we are afraid of losing, whether it be your wife, your husband, your children, your home, your money, your job, career, your position, whatever it is that you are attached to. By default, you're going to fear the security of that thing, that object, right? So, in order to get rid of the fear, to fix the fear, you don't deal with the fear itself, but you deal with the attachment, right? This attachment happens mentally. So, the mind itself is attached to these objects. And because of that, we have a fear of losing those objects, right? So discover, recognize, acknowledge that this attachment is there, and then the fear will go away by default. All right. Now let's deal with anger. Anger, on the other end, is what? Anger and fear kind of work similarly to each other, right? As we know that the fear is when you have the attachment to the thing that you already possess and you're afraid of losing it. Anger on the other end is when you are already attached to the object but you don't get it as yet, right? Now let's look at Cain and Abel, for example, right? Cain was angry. To him, he thought it was about Abel, but it had nothing to do with Abel. It was about Cain's own deeds, right? So there's this anger that came up, this aggression. And what does this aggression wants to do? Aggression wants you to fight to control something. We see this a lot in relationships, in normal relationships, in the work field, wherever it is. When you get anger, when you get angry, you become more controlling, right? You are more in a position to harm yourself and others around you. That's what the aggression does. That's what Cain did to Abel. He ended up murdering his brother because he did not know how to deal with this aggression, right? So so dealing with the anger, we still have to go back to the same desire. Whatever the object is that we desire, there's an attachment that is there that lead us to this anger when we don't get what we want. So for example, a man and a woman go out, right? Husband and a wife, they go out. This man sees another woman that he would really like to talk to. But guess what? He cannot talk to her because his wife is there. Now when they get back home, what happens? They just went out, had a good time, but now he gets home, he's angry at her. It's not because of something that she did, it's because she stood in the way, so he could not get what he desired. His desires was what? Was to go and talk with the other woman. So then that person becomes angry. So anger is also an emotion that is used to detect when someone is going out of the way of the relationship, right? They cause a they create a conflict out of nowhere that you cannot understand where it's coming from. Now the person that gets um confused about this situation ends up leaving the house to give it a break, while the other person goes out to have sex, right? So this is how it actually works. It always go back to that desire, right? So again, to deal with that anger, you do what? You do not need to deal with the anger itself. You have to deal with the attachment. You have to separate yourself from the objects that you are attached to, because this emotion makes people become what? More impulsive. We become slaves to our desires, right? Impulsive that Cain killed his own brother. So it's important to understand the relationship with anger and fear, and how desires play a major role in both emotions, whether we are aware or unaware of it. Discover, recognize, acknowledge your mental attachments and break them. Shalom.